All right. Pick this back up. Wicked 6. If you haven't heard about it, you should check it out. If you have heard about it and you haven't registered, you should register. Otherwise, if you've registered, you're going to do it awesome. We hope to see you there. Networking events, VP of Security, Compliance, and Identity at Microsoft is going to speak. Cyber games for multiple skill levels, virtual escape rooms sound like a lot of fun. CTF challenges, attack and defend, prizes, merch, all the good stuff. We've also got Spacer CTF. This is a new one that's coming up. I think we just were notified about this like a day or two ago. Online Jeopardy style CTF. FitSec team from Florida Tech. Should be a lot of fun. April 1st, that's always a good time to do fun cyber stuff, right? Through April 3rd, so I guess that's all weekend long. Registration is open at spaceheroes.ctfd.io. All right, and then we've also got Jersey CTF 2. Beginner-oriented Jeopardy-style CTF aiming to inspire interest in cybersecurity. April 9th through the 10th. Wasn't this posted for the 2nd originally? Did they change?
This was what was listed on their website.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So teams of up to 4 people. So get you and 3 friends together and y'all can do this. Registration is open, jerseyctf.site. All right, so Hack UCF executive nominations are now officially open. Anyone can nominate anyone for any executive position. However, just because you nominate someone doesn't mean they're forced to run. And if you are nominated, you have to pass the criteria to be able to run. Mostly, you have to be an enrolled student, you have to be an active student member, and you have to be you have to meet a couple of other qualifications that Tom Neteros will eventually talk more specifically about. Let's see here. Nominations close March 25th. So if you are going to nominate someone or you want to be nominated, you should start sooner rather than later. Positions are president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. More information, go to hackucf.org/constitution or grab the QR code, and that will go through all the rules, roles, and responsibilities that you can expect to endure. Yeah, it's a 1-year position. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and come up and talk to myself or Jeffrey, and we can fill you all in. All right, NSA, CAE, and NCX Tech Talks. Man, that was a mouthful. So policy just passed us the 22nd and 24th. We were talking about that last week. Next we got coming up is malware on March 15th and 17th. Should be a really, really good one. I'm looking forward to this one. Recording is prohibited, so you got to catch them when they are live or you miss out. You don't need to be competing in NCX to attend. You can grab that short link or scan the QR code to catch the recordings.
It came to my knowledge that the QR code is no longer valid. So I guess registrations might actually be closed. For NCX.
Okay.
The form the NSA sent out is no longer public.
Gotcha.
So if you want, maybe ask someone else for the link.
We do maybe like a live broadcast in the Cyber Lab.
We could.
Okay.
Probably should let the NSA know before you do that, though.
I'm sure they already know.
National Security 100.
So DEF CON 30. We've been talking about this for a while. We've got enough responses back. We are moving forward with this. I do not have any news to share about it, but definitely if you submitted a form before, you're going to get a chance. Everyone's going to have the opportunity to actually get locked into this, but once you do make a commitment to go, we do actually require that you follow through. If you have to cancel for some reason, just let us know as soon as possible, but be on the lookout for that in the next coming weeks. All right, so from our friends at Cyber Florida, No Password Required podcast is a slice of life podcast coming to you from the perspective of cybersecurity professionals in industry. These are people that have either gone out and done great things that you might have heard about or you should hear about, or maybe you haven't heard about them at all and they're just trying to lay low, but they've done some really cool stuff and they've got a lot of really great stuff to share. Awesome content, pretty easy to listen to. You can throw it on while you're driving if you got a commute or something. I personally, enjoy it, but there's 2 seasons. I recommend season 2, and they got season 3 on its way out too now. So you should definitely take a moment to check their content out and give them a listen. All right. Finally, we've got the Cyber Challenge solution with Jeffrey.
Okay, hello everyone. So today I'm just going to be walking through the cyber challenge and a bit more internals on Apple Wallet. So what is Apple Wallet? So it is an application on Apple's iOS platform that is like a home to manage like all your different like passes for like loyalty cards, for like airplane tickets, and nowadays even credit cards. The primary file format you'll see is the PK pass, but there's also a PK passes like container format if you need to contain like multiple passes in one file. And then they appear as passes sort of like that in the Apple Wallet app. So how are these passes constructed? So they're glorified zip files. Yes, another challenge that you have to use 7-zip to solve. So if you look, you can see a bunch of files, mostly images, but there's some interesting stuff like task.json, manifest.json, and the signature file. The pass.json is the file that controls the appearance of the pass file. So what you see on the user interface is controlled by that file. Manifest.json and signature are a part of the Apple code signing process. So manifest.json is just a giant JSON list of every single file inside the pass, making sure that nothing has been tampered with. And then signature is that the signed version of that manifest.json using a private key that was sent to you from Apple. So that way Apple can effectively prevent you from sharing a pass that it hasn't explicitly signed off as legitimate. It also helps to encourage integrity in these pass files, which can be important if it's containing something like a loyalty card or might even be your plane ticket. And then we just take all of these files and we put them in a zip archive, as you can see in the image. So now let's look at a little snippet of that pass.json file. We have this barcodes array. So this controls the barcode that displays on the pass. It can be a QR code, it can be a code 1 in 28 one-dimensional barcode, a PDF 417, or like one of those like rectangular weird blocky barcodes. Pretty much most barcode formats. And you can see here that we have the one that's displayed to the user, hack me that PK pass, a link to the challenge, and then we have this second one. Now, the reason barcodes is an array is because, and I believe iOS 7, they implemented support for more barcodes, like code 128, and they wanted to have a way to provide backwards compatibility. So kind of the side effect is that you can kind of provide a second barcode that isn't shown to the user. Here, we get a little hint. That thumbnail looking kind of sus. And yeah, that will tell us to maybe take a look at the thumbnail at 2x image, which is those googly eyes that is totally not ripped from Twitter's Twimoji set. So I'm going to take this image and I'm going to throw it into the Digital Invisible Ink Toolkit. This is a steganography tool that is written in Java and makes it relatively easy to encode and decode several steganography challenges. So I select the thumbnail at 2x.png. There is no password, and I use the algorithm BattleStack, which is the default. And if I run it, we get an output file that just says wallet hacks, and that is the flag. So I'll now pass it to current events.
Hey everyone, we have a little bit of fun weekend. We had fileless and socketless malware that was targeting some US contractors. It was interesting that it was found running on one of the C2 servers that was originally created back in 2021, late 2021. So apparently this might have been active since then. Next we had newer version of malware that just floated around Iran's Muddy Water hacker group. They did bunch of different versions of malware, and it's basically CISA issued advisory with FBI and a couple other agencies that this is currently active and going on. And it's PowerShell based script working with DLL file, and it pretends as a Google updater. So that is out there currently. We also had a new Android Trojan, Xenomorph, and another day in Android. So we have about 50,000 active downloads or installs, we could say, on there. So about 50,000 people, none much. Some small news. Russia is everybody's eyes on there right now. So they apparently built a botnet network of firewall devices. That's kind of interesting, using security tools to kind of just play around with it. Anonymous is calling out everybody to target Russia. Nothing new about it. So also the TrickBot malware, they are shutting it down. I think it's already shut down. They may or may not be back. That's what they say. And then the last and importantly, New York City is planning to open cybersecurity hub to kind of coordinate and work with the cyber attacks on the city. I feel that all the cities should go ahead and start thinking about it, because it's almost time. It's about 60 to 70 employees that they're gonna hire and work on whole city's infrastructure. And if and when the stuff gets under attack, they can kind of respond to it. So I believe that's about it. And I'll welcome Michael.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back. As you can see, I graduated from here in 2020 and was an active member of the club. Can definitely say that my activities in the club and doing things like CTFs and competitions definitely helped me a lot to get to where I am now. So right now, I'm working as a consultant at CrowdStrike. It's like what you would think of when you think of a security consultant. I focus on incident response and cloud security, but professional services, our org offers a lot of different services beyond that. So we have like red teaming, pen testing services, and strategic advisory, and then incident response, compromise assessments, things like that. So I don't know, should I have like questions or? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of new faces. I know some of y'all. So I guess, would you guys like to hear more about the incident response process, or do you have any questions? Yes.
I got a question for working at CrowdStrike. What is the, if you can talk about it, what is the coolest operation that you've been on, or kind of like situation you've been in?
Yeah, I mean, one great thing about CrowdStrike is we get a lot of interesting work. So like even as an associate, I was able to work on some like pretty high profile investigations on things that have been in the news. Definitely breaches that y'all have heard about. Because when there's generally like a really big, extensive nation state breach that's all over the news, there's only a handful of companies that are really able to do the incident response for those kind of breaches. And we're fortunate enough to be one of them. Can't really talk about specifics, but definitely gotten to do a lot of interesting things and exposed to a lot of different technologies, different types of networks, different types of people and organizations. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you
working with any specific cloud provider for cloud security like AWS or Azure?
Yeah, so we generally offer services for like AWS, GCP, and then Azure and Microsoft 365. I tend to focus more on AWS. That's just what I know more and I'm more comfortable with, but we get to work with all of the major cloud providers. So yeah.
If you want to get more into incident response, do you have any like specific or more knowledge instance from? Do you have any resources you'd recommend?
Yeah, like whenever there's a CTF or something, the forensics challenges can be helpful. There's tons of free resources online, like PCAPs you can go through, memory images that you can use for practice. There have been like a few people have created like I guess you'd say like mock like incident response cases with a variety of different data sources that you can use to do forensics on and investigate. There are various like open security data sets you can use. Because one thing that was kind of surprising to me getting into this career that I don't think school really prepared me for was like working with a really large amount of data. So, you know, a lot of times in incident response, the data that we have to work with, I just have to work with what we get, and what the client can provide us with can be like almost anything, like any type of logs or whatever. And often it's like a lot of data that you have to go through. So if you have, you know, terabytes of logs, like tens of billions of events that you have to go through to find what you're looking for, to, you know, find the evil that happened, going through that and being able to analyze that effectively and efficiently is a skill I would definitely start working on.
Do you like what kind of specialized tools do you guys use for parsing through all this?
Mainly Splunk. Yeah, I mean, you know, pick your log management platform of choice. I like Splunk. Any of them will do the job. Some are definitely better than others. And then for like smaller amounts of things, being able to effectively use the command line. Tools like CyberChef is really great. It just depends. Spreadsheets, you know.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So you mentioned forensic challenges in CTF, but would you recommend like one CTF over another that maybe someone can like go back and like do a historical, like an archive of that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. No, not a huge CTFer.
Whoever's monitoring chat, are there any questions in the chat?
Okay, well, I know professional services is still looking for at least one strategic advisory intern and at least one or two red team interns for this upcoming summer. And then more broadly, CrowdStrike still has a bunch of internship spots available for the summer and full-time positions as well. So, you know, we're growing a lot, hiring a lot. So if you're interested, hit me up on LinkedIn, or I can give you my email. I'd be happy to like look at your resume and see if you might be a fit. Yeah.
I have one question from chat. Have you done any memory forensics during your time at CrowdStrike?
Yeah, I've done it on a few engagements. It's honestly like not super common, just because a lot of times that evidence isn't available for a variety of reasons. But occasionally we have to do memory forensics. Anything else? Yeah.
What's like a normal day at work?
So I work from home, first of all, so that's pretty nice. So usually start the day by catching up on messages like Slack, email, seeing what I have to do for that day, checking in with PMs for engagements that I'm working, seeing what the needs are for the day. And then usually I'll try to get right into like doing some analysis on whatever I'm working on, or maybe collecting data, depends. And then, you know, I'll have lunch, just keep working throughout the afternoon. Usually have like a few meetings through the day, but not much. And then I just kind of report my findings as I find them, or if I'm working on a deliverable or something, like I'll work on that. I have side projects and stuff that I work on as well. And yeah, I just kind of do my work and then close my laptop at the end of the day.
Well, thank you, Michael. Appreciate you
Alright.
coming out. And then are you gonna stick around?
Yeah.
After everyone wants to talk?
Yeah, I'll be around.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So next we got tool time with Colt.
Sure. Everyone, so we're gonna talk about detainer picking. If you have watched like Lockpicking Lawyer, Bosnian Bill in the past, it is the pick that they made, as it's that specific variety of pick. So detainer picking previously was fairly inaccessible. If you wanted to do any sort of effective detainer picking, it generally required you to go and like file it down and do a lot of heavy modification. It was a pain. It was terrible. And they were really cheap, really easy to break. Speaking from experience, having broken the club's previous detainer pick. So the way that it works, if you've ever worked with a slider sidebar, it essentially works by having a tensioned bar at the top with a spring on it. And as you push things up, as you rotate it around, they fall into these little gates right here. When all of the gates line up, the bar fully pushes into the cylinder area and lets the whole thing rotate. A lot of them will include these things called false gates. These shallow ones right here. It is essentially designed so that it feels like it's fallen into a real gate. So you stop working on that one, and it can be really hard to pick up which ones are false gates and which ones are real. And from what I've read from people who are very good at this, it takes a fair bit of practice to really like get a feel for it. It's a fairly challenging picking style to get picked up, but from what I've heard, it is very like the skill ceiling is fairly high. So the way the key works, basically you insert it and you start rotating it. As you rotate it, it has angles. It has different angles in the key. So as you rotate it, it will set each of these little plates at the correct location. It'll sort of push it into that direction. That causes the gate to fall, the sidebar to fall in, and let the key rotate. So recently there was a new tool developed. It's, I mean, same old design, but just generally higher quality, easier to import, all that. A couple of YouTubers made it originally, the original prototype, and then it was picked up by a larger company called Sparrows. They make they're one of the more popular lockpicking brands among the community as far as I've seen. So the way you use the tool generally, you rotate everything as far as you can in one direction. You're setting sort of a baseline for where you're going to be working from. You take your pick and you put it all the way in the back. It's usually easiest to work in the back for picking. You take the first disc and you're going to tension off of it. That one is essentially going to put pressure on it to try to force the sidebar to fall in as you go along picking it. And you sort of have to move up sort of systematically each one, feeling it and pushing as far as you can. And if you don't feel a drop, you will reset it back, go to the next one, find the next one that's binding, until eventually they're all in there. And you can see it's essentially a small little block on the end of a stick with a thing going on the center of it. So it reaches in the back and we'll rotate it to try to find the correct angle and reset it back if it doesn't work. So I have one right here. If anyone wants to mess around with it later, we have detainer locks in the cyber lab. So we would be happy if you wanted to like try it out. So yeah, that is that.
Thank you, Cole. I think we've got Jackson starting us up first. You want to go ahead and get us started here. Also, if you wouldn't mind, if you've got the locks, you want to do picking, that's fine. You don't have to stand up at the thing. You can sit down here in the front row. That's all right. Just try not to take them all the way in the back and get away from people. See what you're doing. All right. So in physical security, you're probably going to encounter different kinds of penetration testing. Like software wise, it's just breaking into a system. There's also physical penetration testing where a big company might pay you to break into their office building and try and do something. That's the ethical reason for most of the things we'll probably talk about. Don't you sign an ethics form, don't do anything you see here unless you've been given consent or you've been paid to do it. So the first thing you're probably, if you are contracted to break into a building, you're generally going to get like a scope or a manifest of what exactly you're supposed to be doing. Like, okay, here's what we want you to do, here's our location, here's what we want you to break into, here's what you can and can't do, and that will generally outline like, okay, you can't break certain things inside of our building, you can't. It's basically just a set of limits for what you can and can't do. Once you know where you're going and just a general overview, you're going to want to start going out and you're just going to research what you got to do. You're going to look up the building. You're going to see if you can find building plans if they don't give you them. Your probably best bet, at least for getting in, if you don't want to pick a lock, you just want to walk right through the front door, it's going to be social engineering. And I'll get into that next. But your best way for social engineering is probably to go on LinkedIn and start poking around at different employees. You want to look at who you can find, who can you probably take advantage of to get into the system instead of just not knowing anything, just walking right in. Because walking right in, you're going to get caught very easily. You're not going to do a good job breaking into a system. So you can go on like LinkedIn, you can go on any kind of job site, find employees, OSINT works, anything you feel you could probably use to get information before you walk into the building. So using information, you can use it for more social engineering purposes, which is basically just knowing how people work, understanding that, and just getting able to manipulate them so they can help you. Because you're being paid for it, it's technically ethical. Outside that, I wouldn't really try that. That's a good way to lose friends and get arrested. You can use it in a variety of different ways, mostly for probably these purposes. In a penetration test, you're either going to impersonate somebody or you're just going to tailgate. Impersonating, you're going to probably fake being an employee of some kind. Tailgating is you have a crowd of people walking into a building. You're going to just stand in the middle of them and just fake being part of that crowd. Just blend in, don't do anything, don't stand out. Confidence is probably the key part to all social engineering. Just have the confidence in yourself to not be yourself and try and be somebody else. So more in detail about both of those. Impersonation, again, like I said, use LinkedIn, OSINT, research a person as best you can. Try and impersonate them. You pick someone to research, you're going to find a way in while being that person. So best people you probably want to do for something like this, if you can, find someone who is a relatively new employee. Depending on how new they are, a lot of people in that office probably don't know what they look like. They don't know anything about them. They're fresh face. If you know more about them than anybody in that office, you can fake being that person and contact someone to get in. Like, hey, I'm new here. I don't really know what's going on. Generally, someone will probably let you in unless they know that person personally. So the other way is tailgating. Some facilities, this might not be the best because there aren't a lot of people walking into a place. You might have more people watching, trying to make sure that someone who isn't supposed to be there doesn't get in. But it is another effective method. Like what? If I take, for example, like us right now, we walk into a classroom, maybe see hordes of people run into a giant auditorium, something. You blend in. No one stands out there. That's in essence what the premise is of social engineering. Okay, getting in. Or oh no, I remember what I wanted to talk about. It's back up. No, which
No, on the keyboard.
Totally didn't know the keyboard was there. Forgot to mention impersonating and tailgating. Forgot I had an example for this. I had two examples. One guy that actually used both. Back when I was a senior in high school, I used to work just at a local restaurant, right? I had to work mornings, so that meant I showed up at 5 a.m. with like one other person. One morning, I showed up with the other person. I'm getting the door open. Some guy comes up behind us and was like, hey, I'm the truck person. I'm delivering like, what was it, buns or something. I look over, he's got a van. It wasn't at all what the truck looked like. So I worked enough that I knew what he looked like. The other person was a new guy we hired and started working mornings only recently. He started believing him. I knew more about him. Had I not been there, that other employee probably would have let him in the building. So this guy, he was pretty confident. He was like, yeah, I'm truck.
I got buns for you guys. He looked pretty official. Most truck delivery drivers just look like regular people. They don't have uniforms. He was about to walk right in. So I was like, what's your name again? What happened to what was our guy's Mike? What happened to Mike? And he was like, started freaking out because he realized I kind of knew truck drivers personally because I worked enough. And he just he backed up and was like, oh, I'll get the buns. And he went back to his truck and just drove away. Just didn't come back. He hadn't done enough research. He'd immediately been caught and he just immediately tried to run away before he actually got much worse. Probably wouldn't recommend confronting someone who does that in a real scenario like that, mostly because you don't know if they're actually trying to rob the place. You don't know what's really on them. This scenario, it was a risk confronting him directly because he came up to me, but it was the right option, just trying to get him to go away before anyone really opened the store. But that's an example of more social engineering, how you can use that, at least from experience of having it happen to you. So once you've technically done your research, you're ready to get on site for whatever building you're trying to get into. So you're going to show up and you should have a plan of what you're going to do. You should have an idea of like, okay, I am going to fake being this person. You can set up a meeting beforehand, like, hey, can you show me the ropes? Find someone else on who you can contact, show up and just get ready to do that. There are other ways to get inside, like you can probably force open a door, you can probably pick a lock, you can do a lot of other things. But generally, this is most easy way to get through the main entrance. Once you get inside, then you're going to need to do a lot more stuff other things. Anyone have any questions up until you get to the point where you get inside the building? No? Yes.
How do you do this against a defense contractor?
Okay. How do you do this?
Like Lockheed Missile and Fire Control, that's off Lake Undertow.
Okay. Awfully specific.
That has a car at the front gate and then has a visitor center that is not connected to the main building. Purely hypothetically.
Yeah, purely hypothetical. Here's how to break into Lockheed Martin. You'd research, you'd figure out probably what you want to do beforehand. Maybe try and get a hold of a badge beforehand. That way you can probably fake it. You'd need a badge. You need a badge first off to get into a defense contractor. Breaking into more places that are built around security, it's going to require a lot more effort and detail than just like.
You need to go through at least 3 doors inside Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay.
To get inside the exterior building.
All right. You will probably have to go through that at Lockheed Martin. I don't know how many people here will be tasked to do that. You're welcome to do it on your own. You will probably be arrested by door 2. Yes.
You were to hypothetically. Would you want to steal existing key or would you want to
That actually is a good question. The question was, if you want to get in, but you need like a badge or key or some kind, do you want to try and forge your own, or do you want to basically try and like steal another one? And that one depends on the location you're breaking into. 2, one, the location you're breaking into. 2, is it worth it, or is it easy enough to do it? Some locations might not have great security. It's pretty easy to fake a key. We'll talk about like RFID badges, things like that. What is it? Lockpicking? You're doing that, right? Where's that yours? Yeah. Daniel will cover that. But generally, another way is like social engineering. It goes back to that. Social engineering. You want a badge? You can probably just get someone to make you one. You fake being an employee, you can just fake it. Have someone who's more senior being like, oh, you're that new employee? Okay, great. I'll show you the ropes. Here's your badge. That's generally an easy scenario. Otherwise, you might want to try and forge your own, because it'll be easier than trying to get someone else to do it. Because how many of us are really confident enough to go up and say, hey, can I have your badge? Can I have a badge? I'm new here. Can you help me? Like be totally confident about that. I don't know how many of us would do that. Yes, you.
So this is from Sachin in the chat. Say, hypothetically speaking, you want to break into Blackwater.
Oh God. I'm blanking.
For legal reasons, that is a joke.
For legal reasons, this is a joke. Oh, breaking into Blackwater. Yeah, what other companies? Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not totally familiar with Blackwater, but probably about the same thing as Lockheed. You will get arrested pretty quickly. You had a question?
I think it's worth mentioning that if you pretend to be pregnant or something like that, it's also like a really great way to social engineer where you look more likely to move forward.
Yes, that is another thing. But that also depends on the location you break into. Trying to fake some disability is a good way, which actually I did another time. I walked into a Goodwill, was faking a limp with a cane because it was part of a Halloween costume. I was getting ready to try and figure it out. I walked in, I saw a chair I wanted, I bought it, I walked out to the front, and they legitimately thought I was disabled. They thought I had a limp, and I'm totally faking at this point. I'm like, no, I can get in my car. And they're like, no, let's help. They had employees carry the whole thing out, load it in my car. I'm sitting here like, do you really think I'm disabled? I look like I'm what, in my 20s. Do I really have a limp that bad? I'm pretty good at this. Any other questions? Yes.
This is legally a joke, but say hypothetically you want to break into the University of Central Florida, specifically engineering.
Into the cyber lab. We will discuss it after we've gone over doors and locks. We'll discuss how to break into the cyber lab. My method is a lot more fun than some other ways to do it.
Hammers.
That's my method. Hammer. All right. Anyone else have any questions? No? All right. I believe next up was bypassing door security with Cole.
So you've made it in the building. You probably don't just want to go to the cafeteria. You need to get to something actually useful. That's probably behind a lock and key if you're doing that. Like, their odds of just leaving it unlocked if it's something important, pretty low. So how do we get around that? We're gonna start with basic stuff and then move on to some other exploits with using legal processes and fire code. So latch slipping. This is one of my favorite. It's the easiest. Essentially what you're doing is, most of the time with doors, that right there, the latch is still completely movable even while the door is closed. It is, it's spring loaded, so as you close the door, it'll slide up that ramp. That ramp will push it in, and as soon as the door closes, it snaps back out, so you can't pull it out. What we're gonna do is we are going to take, say, a turning tool like this. These are about $4 at Home Depot. These are the ones I've used before. They work pretty well. And essentially what we do is we reach into that little crack in the door between the handle and or the door frame and the door itself near the handle. And we're sort of gonna reach behind where the latch is. And we're gonna grab it and push it into it using that hook. So as we go, we sort of pull it forward, get it to ramp up the hook, and then twist it in and then just pull the door open. And usually that'll get you an entry if it's not a deadbolted door. The thing is, that only works if it is going towards you. The other method is latch slipping. These are the super mica shims that Sparrow sells. You can do this just as well with DIY stuff. I've seen people do it with cut up soda bottles, credit cards. Yep. So basically what you do is you find a door frame, you go to the edge of it where the latch is, and you're just going to really just abuse this thing to force it in there and push the latch in. In the process of trying to learn it, I realized that I was assuming it was going to break. You have to force it into the door to get it to work. It's a bit of a process, but it will get you through a lot of doors, and it'll get you through the other 50% of doors that open away from you. Next, we have RFID scanners. These are super common, especially in office environments. They can be pretty easy to bypass depending on the system they're using to manage it. And if they're tamper resistant or not. If they're set up properly, there should be a tamper alarm inside that if you unscrew the bottom of it, will set off a bunch of alarms and people with guns will come and like shout at you. The thing is, a lot of the time, a concerning quantity of the time, there's no tamper resistance, and there's also ways around that. Using a paper clip. So you open up the bottom of the RFID thing, you look at the wires, and you take this little thing right here. This is called an ESP. It's pretty neat. What it does is essentially, it is a little parasitic device that you punch down onto the wires of the existing system. If you look at the image on the right, it is that one that's between the circuit board on the top right and the reader itself. It's a little thing with a glowing light. And essentially what it does is it just sort of sits there reading traffic that's going in between these two things. It will store it. You can access it from your phone. And what you can do is you can either choose to replay that data again. So essentially replay someone going in and swiping a card or, whatever else, or you can download that data and write it to your own card. And that is a pretty easy way. You can just sort of slap that in there, leave for 3 hours, come back, see who's gone in. You can grab pretty good credentials like that. So fire code. There are a lot of things with fire codes that leave it kind of vulnerable to attack. Double doors are a good example of this. Most exit doors are required by law to have crash bars. Crash bars are those big things you slam your hand into on the way out. And the thing is, if the door isn't fitted properly, what you can do is you can take, I've seen people do it with a coat hanger, you can do it, if you want to, you can buy a proper tool. You can go to Home Depot, maybe spend like $3 on materials. You can go to Walmart and spend like $2 on a coat hanger. Either way, you can basically reach in between those doors and hook onto the crash bar. Just give it a good little tug and the door can pop open. It's pretty simple as far as exploits go. And it'll get you through most double doors as long as they are not electronically locked. We'll go into electronic locks later. Under-door attacks. So due to the Americans with Disability Act, a lot of locations are required to have lever locks. The thing about lever locks is a lot of them have that sort of 45, that little taper off at the end there, right? What that taper means is that gives you something you can grab onto. So what we do to exploit this fact, we take this little piece of metal here with a cable on the end of it. We reach up under the door and slide it across until we feel it hit that handle right there. So you loop it around the handle and you start pulling the cable. And as you're pulling that cable, it catches on that end, on the end of the door handle, where that sort of tapers off. Then you just give it a little tug, push, and it comes open, because as far as the door is concerned, you're already in the building. You don't need to be verified. You're essentially just pretending to be someone who's already in the building. This is a very versatile tool. You can do some modifications to get to open crash bars. You can get it to open, what was it? I've seen people do it with handles that are 90 degrees that have no tapers, just straight like piece of metal. It's much more difficult, but it is possible to do. Double doors, like electronic double doors. This is what's called a rec sensor or a request to exit sensor. You essentially sit above a door and passively just look for people trying to leave. What you can do with that is pretend, essentially fake having a person on the other side of the door who wants to get out. It'll, depending on how it's set up. I'm assuming this might be because it's trying to be in a situation where, say, something's colder than like the general temperature around it, like the general temperature is too cold, so it's looking for people who are warm, or if it's too hot, the human body's gonna be colder than what's around it, something along those lines. Either way, it's only looking for temper differentials, big like bursts of moving temperature. So how do we exploit that? We take a compressed air can or various other things. If you look on YouTube, there's a great video by a guy named Deviant Olaf, but spelled Olam, walking up to a bank with a glass of whiskey, taking a swig and spitting it in between the doors and just popping the door open on the front. It's like 16 seconds, it's great. But essentially what you're doing is you are taking this compressed air can, and because in the pressure vessel, the coldest bits fall to the bottom. When you spray through, all it's seeing is this giant sudden change of temperature in front of it. So it assumes, oh, that's a person. I should open it so they don't get burnt alive in a fire or something. And the door pops open. It works really well, pretty consistently. You can do it with a lot of different things. I've seen people do it with vapes. I've seen people do it with compressed air. Like I said, whiskey. I think I've seen someone do it with paper as well at one point, but don't quote me on that. And yeah, so I'm gonna hand it off to Daniel for identifying locks.
Thank you, Cole. To kind of touch on a couple of the other questions that people were asking about getting access to buildings and things like that, just to share a couple of experiences. I was stationed out at Nellis Air Force Base almost a lifetime ago, and we had breaches multiple times. One of the easiest ways to get into an enclosed location is to just drive through the gatehouse, because more often than not, even though they have an armed guard there, that armed guard isn't allowed to shoot. Now I'm not like recommending that anyone just try and get themselves shot. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Definitely like don't break it anywhere that you don't have permission to be in. But more often than not, that is an easy way to get past that initial barrier to entry. The other way is actually just to convince someone else that like has authority to be there to walk you in, which is way more common than what you would think. All too often, individuals meet up in like bars or like doing other hobbies and things like that. You establish like a long-term connection with these people over like the course of a couple of days or weeks or months, and you get their confidence right in you, and they bring you on, and then all of a sudden you disappear. And I can't tell you how many times like that happened where someone would just sponsor someone on base, and then all of a sudden like they'd be lost on base, everyone would get locked down. It was a really bad time. So those are a couple of ways. I don't know if that will work for Blackwater, but anyway, so we're going to go over some ways to identify locks. We're going to get into why it is you might want to do this, and how it is this can be useful to you if you find yourself in this situation. A little bit later on, we're going to have a interactive event where this might come into play, so definitely pay attention here. I'm going to use the difficulty rating of easy, medium, hard, and good luck, because I've got one lock up here that if anyone could actually like demonstrate a way to defeat that in a real world example, I would be very, very impressed with you. Yeah, what's up?
Is it the one that's broken?
No, but yeah. Anyway, liquid nitrogen. So, right. Not all locks are equal, right? So a well-made lock, surprisingly, is easier to pick than a shitty made lock. And that's just because the crappier a lock is, the more likely it is to just be difficult mechanically to work at all. You'd be surprised that more often than not, when a really, really well-made lock works, it just like perfectly, like everything is aligned correctly, everything is buff smooth, it's great. When you go to pick it, everything just falls right in line and it falls open on its own. I've had plenty of locks that were made like really, 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 really cheap Chinese locks that you go to pick, and they should be really easy, like 4-pin pin tumbler locks. And it like should be about like a minute, 2 minutes to pick open, and you just sit there for an hour and it just does not go. I've had really, really expensive 7-pin locks that I've picked that should realistically be difficult, even have security pins. And within about like 5 minutes, they just pop free. It's like easy. So definitely what you're looking for in a good security lock is that it's intended to be a security lock. It's intended to have a certain number of man minutes or hours before it can be defeated. But yeah, some lock styles are more prone to certain bypass measures than others. We're going to go over a couple of different things, but on padlocks, for instance, in most cases, you can actually just shim the shackle and pop it open without ever even having interface with the lock. And as Colton went over, if you don't have to pick a lock, don't. Just bypass the door, like slip the handle, crash bar, open from the inside. Way easier to do that when you're on scene than to try to sit down and like be inconspicuous doing this when a security guard comes around the corner and sees you what you're doing. So also all of my advice is given assuming like a moderate amount of familiarity with these locks. So if you've never seen these before, if you've never tried to pick them, don't assume that when I say it's easy, it's going to be easy for you. This means that it's easy for me and for an individual who's had, enough time to get used to how this specific lock works, how you would deploy specific like tools to defeat that lock. So continuing on. Oh, we got pin tumbler locks. You're going to walk by here and you're going to see these is a really, really common commercial and residential locks. All too often have these. They can range from 4 to 7 pins sometimes for security locks. That you have security pins. So you end up with spools, or you'll end up with a variety of other different pin types that make it really difficult to get that good like feel when you're popping that lock. As we can see on the left-hand side, this is a quick set lock. The reason that like I demonstrated this one is because it's really, really common in America. You go to a Home Depot, you go to Lowe's, you go to buy a residential lock, you're probably gonna find one of these. One of the great things about these is they are a quasi master keyed system, which means that you can reset this lock like just by buying a new set of keys. You'd have to disassemble it to do so. but this is a great way if you want to like learn lock picking, you want to learn how to do like residential locks. With a quick set, you can essentially like buy a certain number of keys, like as many as you want to, and have a new target to hit every single time. There's a lot more discussion there about different like pin tumbler key profiles, what makes a harder key versus an easier key. But I would rate these both with like non-destructive entry tools, like rakes instead of picks, relatively like medium, depends on like who made the lock. On the right-hand side, we've got a European style. So on the bottom section where the face of the lock is, that whole like oblong section with the circle, that whole thing gets pulled through, right? That's a whole like lock in itself. And when these need to be replaced, you just partially disassemble, pull that out, slap a new one in, and you're good to go. And then you can rekey those like relatively easy. You'll find these a lot more in Asia and Europe than you will in the US. They're pretty uncommon here. You'll definitely see more of like this style. Pin tunnel locks, but the dimple variant. So these come in two different variations. You've got like your residential key has one keyway. What you'll see is they'll turn these sideways and you get multiple of them stacked end to end, which means instead of having one section that you have to pick, now you have like multiple layers of that to pick. On occasion, they'll actually do dimples on the flat end and on the top end. So you'll have to simultaneously get two different dimensions of lock picked at the same time just to get it to pop open. I would rate these also a medium, just because the more complicated that you make lock, the more easy it is to rake, usually. And with the appropriate amount of tension and the right flick of the wrist, it will just pop as if it did not have all those additional security features. There are specific security locks when it comes to dimple variant locks, though, that are much harder to pick. So I'd like be wary of that. But once again, with bypass tools, you know, you're trying to defeat the crash bar that's on the other side of that. You're trying to defeat the like the lever that's on the other side of this. So if you do that in place of trying to pick it, you're gonna have a lot easier way to get through that door. Warded locks. So if you're trying to pick your way to a monastery, you might see the one on the left-hand side there. These have been around for a really long time. They used to be like the bee's knees as far as it came to security, because you have to have a specific cutout shape to bypass all the wards that are static in the lock. So you can actually like rotate the part of it that is supposed to rotate. Unfortunately, the advancement of like really high quality steel that's cheaply and easily available makes these like super easy to pick. They often come in like padlocks, master locks, not these we got up here, but we do have a couple of these in the lockpick kit, and they are relatively easy to pick. You just find a way through and you rotate, slip it, and it's open. Do not ever use these. Like you'll see these that like are locking up chains on gates, sometimes like sheds, things like that. In practice, never ever use these. These are terrible. If you're gonna pick this, you're gonna get spotted because you're gonna be out in the open fiddling around with the lock, and someone's gonna say like, "What are you doing here?" But if you can bypass this by just shimming it, you can literally pick it up and pop it open and walk away, and no one's gonna know the difference. Unless it's a monastery, then you might have a couple of questions to answer. Tubular pen locks. These are really common on vending machines. On the right-hand side here, I think everyone has seen these at least once in their life. If you watch someone open up like a soda machine or something, you also see them a lot on filing cabinets. You'll see them on display cases. Super common. They are, and this is the unfortunate one. So for difficulty here, we've got these. They're either easy or hard. In my experience, you either get these like on the first go or you never get it. You can spend like an hour, 2 hours trying to pick one stupid tubular lock and it just will not go. Or you just happen to get it like the first try. There's really no in between on these. It comes down to quality of manufacturer. The cheap ones are relatively difficult to pick, and the expensive high quality ones are really easy to pick. The picks for these are very expensive. Well, they're not expensive. They're very specialized. Right, so you get a good pick, basically let you pick all pins at the same time just by like rotating the pick back and forth, and then it'll pop free. If you try to do this pin by pin, good luck. You'll get it eventually, but it's just not gonna be a fun time. I would recommend bypass tools if you have them available. It's really easier to like get behind the lip of like a filing cabinet and slip that tailstock or kind of like jimmy it open than it is to pick this. More often than not, you'll see these on things that are so low security and like so low value that you can actually just bend the door down and like open it up without it really damaging anything. So I would recommend doing that instead. Wafer and tumbler locks. So you'll see these in filing cabinets. You'll see them in like gun cases. You'll see these in like automotive use. Your car door probably has like one of these keys to it. You're gonna rake these open. There's like, you can single pin pick, I guess, if you really want to waste your time, but that's like, raking it is the easiest thing. Bypass tools are really easy too. Once again, these are really, really low security. I would rate these like an easy. You could probably do these, like you could go from 0 to being able to pick any of these in about an afternoon if you really wanted to. All right, so disc tumbler locks. We talked about disc detainer locks earlier on the tool time, and this is the one that is rated good luck. What you see here on the left-hand side is an ASA Alloy Protect 2. That lock has never been picked in real life by anyone. And that's not just me bragging, that's like legit. The Protect 2 comes with a multitude of different types of key restrictions, and like for all commercial locks, the same thing applies. You effectively have to call the manufacturer to get a key that will fit that specific lock and will have that right profile. There are only so many keyways made, and they are incredibly restricted. You can theoretically pick this. I just don't know anyone that has, and I know that there's a lot of people that would love to brag about doing it. But as far as Alloy is concerned, and as far as the internet, as I know it, no one has successfully picked a Protect 2. Unfortunately, not every Alloy is made equally, right? And we've got another example here, which is a filing cabinet lock with the key, and you can see like why it is that it's probably a little bit more difficult than average. This would be a lot easier to bypass. When you have a residential door, we're assuming like a deadbolt situation, the likelihood of you being able to get behind that door on a well-made door, someone who's gone out of the way to spend $350 on a Protect 2 and have a licensed tech come out and like install it for them, they probably are not taking security very like lax, right? So they're probably keeping it with everything else. If you do find one of these in the wild and you do find a way to bypass it, take pictures and send them to me so that I can like brag about you, because I'd love to see that. But yeah, bypass tools, if you can get them, picks, good luck. Electronic locks. So this is either going to be like comically like childlike easy, or like medium at the very minimum. Most of these come with a backup key in them, so you're defaulting to whatever the keyway is. For these, that's a pin and tumbler key, so you break that open probably just as easy as you could any other slage. This particular model, I believe, has a couple of mechanisms that can be defeated. One of the big things about electronic locks, specifically like if they're deployed in commercial and industrial cases, they are required to fail open. And I know we talked a little bit about fire code, but what that means is that if the power goes out, guess what happens to the lock? It doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, if it has a mechanical backup, then you would fall back to the mechanical, but in this case, you just slip the latch and you'd be right in there. So easy or medium. Once again, recommend bypass tools. It's always easier. And yeah, if you can't do that, rake it open. Cool. So now we're going to get in the cyber lab. Who's going to walk us through this? Is that Cole? Yeah. Jeffrey? I know you guys collaborate. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder.
Yeah.
You'd like to say
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is kind of like a prelude. So we before we actually go through like a full like planned out exercise, like we're gonna talk about maybe what strategies you might take to go from let's just say it's the dead of night, engineering is locked, and you need to get into the cyber lab. Keep in mind you don't have any IDs. You aren't like a cyber lab monitor, so you can't use like an ID to get in, but you still need to get into the cyber lab. Question is how?
Also, before we engage in this, don't do this, please.
Don't do this.
If you have to get in the cyber, like ping me on Discord, call me, wake me up from a dead sleep. I'll drive an hour down just to make sure you can get in, so that we're not having you get arrested. So, let's not do that.
Correction. Call me also because I can get there not now.
Right.
Touche.
Not getting arrested.
So yeah, this is merely as a thought exercise and shall not be done in
real life. You signed an ethics form. If you haven't, please leave the room.
We're doing this hypothetically, big ol' emphasis on hypothetically.
Okay, so you're outside the cyber lab. You have 2 doors. You have one that has badge access, and the other which is most certainly just flat out locked, and you need a key to get it. What do you think would be the best choice here?
Driving to a hardware store.
Alright, so you want to drive to a hardware store? Okay, cool. We got driving to a hardware store. Anyone else got a suggestion what we do here?
And if you're at the hardware store, what do you want to get?
We're all inside the side of that.
I thought you were gonna say class was covered.
That would also work. I don't know if you can get that in like a hardware.
We are very quickly moving from covert to overt. We're moving from
Never told we had to get in non-destructively.
we're moving from breaking and entering to like at least 3 counts of destruction of property.
We're outside engineering, right?
Yes.
Inside engineering, it gets easy.
Yes, once you're in.
Opens on the top and you can just drop down from the second.
Yes, it is. In
Exactly.
the corner, there's a massive stuff that honestly you could probably jump on.
Can we walk around outside of this map and go to the door that's never locked?
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
versus the engineering building. You can find another door on the
There's
engineering
one
building.
that
to get
goes to
in.
the business admin entrance. It's never locked. I've never seen it locked, even like football days and at 1 a.m. It's never locked. So you can just walk right in.
It was that way until COVID, and then they started actually locking.
So did they?
Yeah.
Yes, I've had to break into the engineering building.
Yeah, I noticed the usual back door is usually locked at the dead of night.
Key card spook. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, did you prepare for this like previously? Did you like skim someone's card?
No.
Brute force the key.
Just spend the next 30
You
minutes.
found a card in the student union. You're smart like that.
Okay, so card recovered.
And the card, let's just say, happens to be someone from SGA that for some reason has access to the building.
Sure. Yeah. that works.
Sure, why not?
You found it in the Senate.
The Senate. Yeah.
Break into the city, then you get it unlocked.
Can't get into engineering 1, can break into a government building.
Well, that's the center.
The SGA Senate, not the Florida Senate.
It'd be weird
Same
if I
thing.
used to get ID before I said it.
Yeah. All right. So, what do we think is the easiest here? Just to clarify too, both of the doors up top here are double doors, and this door on the side is also a double door that leads to the stairwell.
Yeah, but it has no handles on the outside.
Sounds like a challenge.
Is there any technique that we might have used that doesn't require a bunch of like external like work?
Can't you also use like the crash bar method with the under door tool?
You could.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
And also, for the sake of this, we're just gonna assume you have whatever you want
Right.
tool wise that isn't going
Hardware
to,
store.
yes, hardware store. That isn't gonna cause massive destruction of property.
Never mind.
I mean, you could get through most of these kind of scenarios with a 12 gauge if you took like 20 minutes, but,
Let's stop there. It's C4.
Yeah.
but yeah, no, you could easily get in with the double door tool. And
You
honestly,
could also just like hammer the glass like right in front of the cyber lab.
We said non-destructive, please.
Yeah. Okay, can I buy a glass pane at the hardware store as well?
You can bang on the door until someone who's inevitably sitting in the atrium on their computer comes and opens it.
That is a valid strategy as well.
Social engineering. That's great.
You can walk in the other door as well. It's close to the atrium.
It is. Oh, there you go.
yes, go bang on the front door.
All
All right,
right.
so you're inside. What do you do from there? What's the plan from inside?
So you gain entry. Now you're inside.
In front of there's no next slide.
There's no next slide.
No, not here. Dude,
Do you have a non-destructive rule on your person? You just go to the second floor.
Yeah.
Self-destructive.
But if we're not liability, break any bones. So jump in from the second floor because it's open.
The real trick is comically large extending ladders.
You could just be carrying a ladder, then you just get like the construction vest, and like, there you go.
That's a
Valid
plan.
strat.
Yeah, and then faculty like.
Yeah.
So-
Shove your credit card in the door.
So.
It's actually-
The cyber lab doesn't have a live latch. I've checked.
Hypothetically check. Right?
Hypothetically,
Oh,
allegedly, I checked.
so unfortunately, the doors actually have latches to the top and bottom, so you actually do have to activate the crash bar. But if someone used a crash bar tool to get into the first set of doors, hey, good job. Then you could theoretically just replay that same attack and then go through the crash bars to get into the lab.
Could you assume that the last person left the lab had the door broken and the latch is activated and the door didn't
That's
Let's hope they followed like the protocol and actually do what they're supposed to. But you could, yeah.
Technical failure is a valid thing to exploit.
Always check and see if the door's unlocked first before you try to open it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we've kind of talked about some ideas how you can get through a very basic scenario. So I say we graduate to the complicated scenario. So what this is going to require a bit of an introduction. We are going to break into the totally real Hack UCF private office. So this is the context. You have been hired by Hack UCF, which is now a legally like liable company, to participate in a physical penetration test against our new Hack UCF private office built to manage the cleanup of the Hack UCF private nuclear reactor meltdown on I-4 from a few meetings back. You're only given floor plans and the scope of work document, and the rest is up to you. Now, let's read that scope of work document. Hey, due to the cost of building our Hack UCF private office at the border of the Hack UCF private nuclear reactor meltdown rehabilitation site, and associated cleanup costs, we cannot hire lawyers to write a formal document. However, regulators are forcing us to perform this penetration test for some reason. So we'll set some ground rules and just hope it's good enough. Probably not. This is not a legal document. If you are writing legal documents, don't write it like this.
There's a typo.
It doesn't have autocorrect.
It's accurate to how Jeffrey would write it then.
Clean up a nuclear reactor.
Unfortunately, Hack UCF is poor when it caused a meltdown.
Why is your signature in like a shittier version of Comic Sans?
That's my handwriting. So the rules, you can access our the physical premises and any facility within. You are given no badges and no access to the system. You cannot interact with computer systems except those that deal with access control. Please do not physically break anything. So plasma cutters will not cut it, neither will digging. You can bring anything needed with you to complete the excursion, and do not abuse your access to leak any information. We're assuming everyone signed a fictitious NDA. Don't let us down and have fun. Now, let's look at some of the other documents we're given. We've been given floor plans of the Hack UCF private office. So you can see that there's a security guard, there's an open courtyard, and there are two floors, the top floor and the basement. The top floor has the lobby, some bathrooms, a medic bay, a janitor closet with a stairwell, and a dead man's door on the top right. And if you look over here, you can see that goes down to some office space, a conference room, a lounge, mechanical, our SOC, which the sidewalk should be, and the server room. So this is meant to be an open exercise. So there are many ways we could go about this. And we're gonna break them together.
So we took the floor plans, we threw them in a tabletop thing.
Yep.
Yes, that was the email. Look, Jeffrey was the one that told me to do that, okay?
Yes.
Oh, and it got closed.
Oh, yeah, he signed out. So.
Oops. So, Daniel, if y'all would like to come over here.
Yeah.
This is in no way designed to be used for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Don't worry about it, Sarah. Don't. No, me, Dungeons and Dragons.
Presume it's still probably watching.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was still one.
Yeah, that helps very much. Oh, surprising email. I would never have guessed what email comes with.
I swear if I mistype this, I'm okay. We're good. Very cool and good. So, welcome to the courtyard. So we are currently outside. We have a security guard posted up front and another one sort of just chilling over here. If anyone would like to raise their hand or just shout, either way, what do you think the play is to start with?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I saw this on the blueprints, but can you assume that there is a door from the roof to the, I guess, ground floor? If you got on the roof to get to the building?
I would say, sure. Like, I don't know, what do you think?
There probably would be roof access.
Yeah,
Yeah. fine.
Sure. Also, to note, this is the, what was it? Fallout Rehabilitation Center. You are not allowed to cross this line unless you would like to be permanently mutated horribly like a ghoul from Fallout or something like that.
All right.
You do not need a radiation. What time are we breaking it?
Great question.
What time?
What time? What time is it? Not right now. You're in control here. What time?
You can control that.
I mean, if it's during the daytime, you can easily say that you are a food delivery driver or any other vendor.
Okay.
That would make it a little bit easier to get into this parking lot and go into the building.
Yeah, speaking from experience, if you just say you work for DoorDash, people don't question you. I have been a DoorDash driver and gone into places, they don't question your credentials. You can just sort of walk in.
So do you want to do that?
Yes, sure.
All right, let's door dash up.
Alrighty, so police officer will let us in. And then
You get to snack on all the tasty food you were pretending to deliver.
So it really is DoorDash.
It is DoorDash. I mean,
Unless you wanted to put something else in the back.
the medic bay is very important because of the fact that it's a radiation cleanup facility.
I was wondering why we have a medical facility inside the Have to Be Safe Vessel.
It's to clean up the wreckage of I-4 and any survivors that are found.
All right, so we've assumed the identity of a DoorDash delivery driver. We have someone's hot, tasty food. We're ready to make a delivery. But how do we go about getting anywhere outside of the lobby? You have any ideas?
Hey, there's a meeting at the conference room and you have to bring the food to them.
Okay, that's a good one. What's up?
You might be able to talk to the guard and figure out, like, say, hey, I got this food for someone. Can you lead me to X person, like where they're located?
Okay. Did you? Nope. Floor. It's a bit extreme, but it does work.
I think scope of work does not include assault.
You can buy some extra time, ask for the bathroom, try to get an idea of the traffic.
Okay, good.
Oh, I was saying, if you're kind of taking delivery driver during the daytime, you can't use floor. Very visible, but you can also use common names.
Okay.
As Bill said, common names like. There will be someone working with a common name.
Okay, so are we going with gonna approach the security guard and say, hey, I've got a delivery for John Smith. Said something about a conference room. Can you direct me to the conference room? Is that you gonna do that? Yeah.
that's the call.
Is that the consensus?
Oh,
Okay, that's
sorry, what's up?
consensus.
We got a couple of people. What's up?
I think it's probably a safer idea to be like, hey, I have a DoorDash delivery, but I didn't use the restroom. Probably a safer idea than like making up a name.
Sit in the bathroom until like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Normally when you are a DoorDash delivery to a building, they won't let you pass the lobby. They'll just take the food and call the person.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, that's a
Everywhere I've worked on that.
Yeah.
great point. So, hey, I've got a delivery for John Smith. Said something about a conference room. I really need to use the bathroom though. Can I leave this here? You call him down, and then I'll I just use the restroom and dip out. Is that what we're going with?
I mean, I just wouldn't normally, right, know everybody.
That's true. Okay. Cool. So let's go with that. We'll leave the DoorDash delivery at the front desk, ask where the restroom's at, and we'll head over to the restroom. Successfully in the restroom. What do we do now?
I'm waiting until, well, I would go later at night and I'll just wait until everybody leaves.
Okay.
And then maybe forget, you don't forget.
Yeah.
I did not map out the HVAC system, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Another one?
That's this thing on the ceiling.
Okay. Did you?
Do they have cameras on location?
They do, but we're not giving information on where they are.
They're definitely not in the restroom though.
I would hope they're not.
I would just dip into the courtyard and then, I don't know if that's possible, because I guess there's somebody in the hallway, but with confidence, maybe walk to the courtyard and then tailgate somebody with a badge going to the second floor.
All right.
That's what I think is different ones as well. But if you have blackballed or bribed someone and they left the badge like, in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's
called
good.
flash drive journalism.
Yeah, sure. No, that's good. So like, let's make the assumption that you go in there with your DoorDash delivery hat on, and you like drop the food off, and you go to a restroom. You're in there for a little bit. Now you've been planning this out. You're gonna take the next step. Now we're gonna dish the costume. Maybe we'll hide it in the ceiling tiles or something. And let's
The
make
DoorDash delivery.
assumption-
Actually had all of the breaking and entering tools.
All right, so we've got two options. We can like try to use the badge that we blackmailed someone with, or we can try to con our way to the courtyard and tailgate someone upstairs. Vote for number one by show of hands. Okay, got a couple. All right, vote for number two by show of hands. Number two takes it. Okay, cool.
Alright, at least you use the badge, it doesn't work, and you just start talking to someone that like you'll like, oh god, I have to do this thing. The boss is gonna come to me if I don't fix the server.
Okay, yeah, all right, good con. All right, so we're gonna slip around the courtyard and we're gonna, I guess, wait there for someone to either pop through that door or we're going to follow someone in.
Loudly have an argument on your phone. That's
That's
people don't want to be
Okay,
around you
we're
when you're
at
arguing
your-
on.
We are about to, like, they're about to open the first part of the dead man block. Now, keep in mind, there are two security contacts, so you have to go through both of them. So tailgating might not work well here.
Because since this is a man trap, it's only going to activate this or allow you to open the second door after. That's what's correct.
Yeah, so to describe this, there are in this hallway, right, there are two badges with displayed. That means that you've got two separate doors. You go through the first one and that door remains closed while the other one can be opened up. You have to badge through at both of them. And we can assume that employee training is dictated that every single person knows that they're only allowed to go through one gate at a time. So no one should follow them into the second.
I say you take up smoking and just wait for your office worker to go through on his own.
Okay.
I would bump into a security guard and call his.
Okay.
We already get an ID though.
Well, I mean, it's an idea.
We have multiple timelines, one in which we blackmailed them, the other in which we didn't.
I kind of like the argument on the phone thing. Because if you're sitting there yelling at somebody on the phone and you tailgate them, then they might not deal with normal security, and they might just want to get through, get away from you.
Yeah, they might ignore security policy and just instinct will tell them, no, I gotta get away from this person, just not saying.
So you just like
They don't,
follow them through both doors.
yeah, they don't want to challenge you like that.
So
That's
we're
an
gonna-
option possible.
Could you somehow utilize an RFID quote? Like maybe prior to the arrival, you had in there with like previously you said something about where the activity. Like on the spot, read somebody's activity and then.
Yeah, absolutely. So not necessarily maybe like the best situation because you're kind of already like, under pressure, but you could be in a situation where you've got a bag and inside the bag is a skimmer, or maybe you've got a skimmer tucked in like a back pocket or something. And you just nonchalantly like walk up to someone and get close enough to skim their ID. And then you go back to the bathroom and you like cut yourself a card and then you like badge through just like you were them. But for this specific situation, I think that it might be the best idea to stress the person that's in front of us and kind of force our way through this man trap. We let them open the first door and then completely ignoring them, talking loudly into the phone in a very aggressive manner. We're going to follow the door through and then just pretend like, we are supposed to be here. We know what we're doing. We're an employee. It's just we're trying to get to where we need to go because you know, this person's very angry at us and we're very angry at them, and that's now that person's problem for us.
Okay, then.
I have a further question. Wouldn't the security guard in the lobby eventually get suspicious that we're in the bathroom for all this time?
It's entirely possible. Do we have that section like planned out? Is that a set of events we can do? Is he gonna go check the bathroom for us?
Yeah, we can do whatever. So let's just say, we were able to get to the man trap, but this security guard right here is now like kind of checking up on him. And then notices that the door is unlocked, but he didn't see him through. So now he like doesn't know where this person is and probably will end up calling the other security guard in front to see if they saw anyone leave. When they did that, no one was seen to have left. They're still, to our knowledge, in the premises. So because of that, the security guard starts looking around, and it's gonna probably take some time, but they're now looking for you.
Like a stealth game's like guards alerted.
Unfortunately, the budget was 3 guards, 1 to let people in and out of the nuclear fallout zone, and 2 actually on premise.
So is that the one in the lobby and the guy down here first floor?
Yes.
Okay, so he's got to do the entire premise himself.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
He's very stressed out. We don't have budget anymore because the nuclear reactor exploded.
What he might do is check these, call the people at the system security operations center and see if they can pull up cameras to look for him.
Yeah, no, that
You
makes sense.
just mentioned there was cameras. They were.
All right, then.
So we are now going to bring our cast of characters to the next floor. We are now entering the basement. So, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. That's it right there. Disregard the fact that they're referred to the guards as monsters.
They might be, we don't know.
They might be.
We hired the best, actually. We do know.
We know they're monsters.
Right.
The only people worthy of defending us.
At the gym every day.
Okay, so we have the employee we were killing, we have us, and the security guard is still going to the man. So keeping, well, we don't know that the security guard's following us, or potentially is. What's our next move now that we're in the secure zone?
What is that goal?
That is a good question. What is the goal?
Where is the screen?
Yes.
Someone pull it back up.
You forgot to add it to the goal. I think goal was server room. Yeah.
The scope of work says do whatever. So try to get as much access as you can.
The idea on an open-ended penetration just like this is just to get as many things as possible. So if you can get access to the server room, great. All we have to do is provide proof that we were actually in the server room. Selfie, and go. Similarly, if we get into the conference room or the SOC, right? If we somehow manage to get into the SOC and no one's there, well, that's a big problem. So really, we can go anywhere, we can do anything, but it's just kind of where we want to take this. So,
We pulled the fire alarm so everybody can be.
ooh,
So security guards on a problem. Fire alarm.
that's a possible avenue. Let's see if there's any other,
Exploit fire code.
right?
I like that idea because the security guard would be stuck in the man trap. Everyone else would go the other way.
Possible. Anyone else have a counter idea? So,
If we swipe the person's ID, it's one thing happens in the home.
I think
so.
The one that we-
Yeah, we're tailing them.
That was the person
Oh,
we forced through the door.
Well, maybe we. Yeah.
I mean, if-
We bumped into them, like,
We knocked him out and
Physically-
barricade the man.
Physically, you can physically push past them and then use that. One of the ways people will skim key cards is by either physically bumping into people accidentally or what was it? People will put. I heard where one person put their skimmer in a coffee cup and like just gestured in someone's direction to get it close enough to that badge.
Good.
Oh, well, like using your coffee cup, like.
Like you're gesturing with it. Yeah, it was a fun thing. But anyways,
Okay, so what's the play?
We
And
got,
also, what's gonna be our first target?
right,
What
so,
else?
so far we've got a suggestion to pull fire alarm and force everyone to evacuate the building. Does anyone else have a suggestion on where we should be going to, targeting, what our goal should be here?
Maybe just keep with the tailgating, see where they're going. We've already made them like this operating.
Okay, so we've got full fire alarm and keep tailgate. Really stress this person out. Anyone else?
Call for the T department to.
Any server room?
Something's going on in there.
Oh, okay, cool. So we got 3 recommendations. Anyone else?
I'd say pull the fire alarm, but specifically when you're in like a room without people in it. Because like going to the server room, pull the fire alarm that's in the server room. Because otherwise, people could see you and they'll just be like, "Why is this person pulling fire alarm?"
Yeah,
That's a felony.
Start a fire, pull the fire.
Scope says, don't destroy anything. That's our fire.
It's
please.
flash paper, don't worry.
All right, so are those the 3 ideas we've got? All right, let's get some targets, right? We've got server room down here, we've got the SOC, we've got a mechanical room, we've got the employee lounge, we've got some bathrooms, a conference room, we got some office space, there's probably some computers there. What should be our primary focus?
I will note, the mechanical room is technically not a secure location. You could take from the top floor, take the stairwell down to the mechanical room. And if you enter there, you would be in the insecure zone already. So, just a note there.
I think the SOC is our goal.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go for the SOC. We got 3 options, right? First option is to pull a fire alarm. Second option is to continue stressing this person out and following them very quickly and see where they go. And the third option is to get someone else to open the door to server room or conference room, whichever, or server room instead, right? Because there's something going on there. Yeah, what's up?
Alternatively, you don't need to pull the fire alarm. If you like have a lighter, like light a piece of paper on fire, and find some detector, like the alarm will go off itself.
Okay.
If we are going with the fire alarm bit, we could wait behind that door for the security operations center when we pull the fire alarm and they come out. Just go behind that.
Okay.
I would point out, if no damage, that if you set up a fire alarm, sprinklers might go off.
That's fair. If you light a fire and hold it up to the receptacle, like, those, it will engage the fire protection system. So sprinklers will come down and you will damage like whatever exists. And we're not supposed to do any damage. So are we gonna try to pull the fire alarm on the outside of the SOC and then just kind of like jump in there when they all leave, they all run out?
Would pulling the fire alarm also trigger the sprinklers?
No, typically a fire alarm does not immediately trigger the sprinklers. It just sets the alarm
The
off.
sprinklers are all like densely packed wax on the top there, and when that wax melts, that's what triggers them. So the fire alarm doesn't even have to be going off, the sprinkler to run.
I will tell you though, just in case no one is aware, more often than not, there's a tiny little glass vial full of blue dye inside the fire alarm. And when you pull it, it breaks that vial and squirts out everywhere. So it's gonna mark you if you're, not careful and you get caught. So we're gonna pretend that like we're experts at this. We actually went and bought a fire alarm and practiced this time and time again before we did this. So we can successfully just like pop that fire alarm and get no blue dye anywhere on us. Right? Okay. So is this what we're gonna do? We're gonna pop the fire alarm? Yes.
Alrighty, so let's just say there's a fire alarm in the office space. There's one in the lounge, in the conference room, in mechanical, and inside the SOC. So the only one in that we don't need an additional key for would be in the office space and in the lounge. So do you want to use the fire alarm like right next to us, or do you want to walk over to the lounge so we don't have an audience?
Yeah, there is someone in the lounge.
So there's
You're
less
right.
people.
But it's an audience of one person versus an audience of the whole team.
And you're still faking being on the phone.
If you take the walk to the conference room, is it, are we assuming that no one's gonna see us?
I mean, you're off to the side, so like,
Like in a hall?
The thing is, it's also a straight shot from the lounge, so if someone's leaving, they can see you trying to pick them off.
It's true, risky, but there is a door here, and we'll make the assumption that that door is like one of the like automatically closing doors to prevent the office space noise from leaking in. So you do have a little bit of cover, but it is risky.
I would put the lock to the conference room, so that you could pull the fire alarm in the conference room, because I feel like if you pulled it in the office space and you were walking the opposite direction of the exit, it would look really strange to anyone else leaving.
All right, so are we gonna pick the lock? Seems pretty reasonable. All right, cool, let's pick the lock then.
Alrighty, so we are going to move to the lock, and we are approaching. So we pick the lock, and with like it takes maybe a minute or two, and then we're able to successfully get in. Now we're in the conference room. Do we pull the fire alarm now?
I think so. I think we all agreed beforehand that we were going to burn, that we were going to not light something on fire, take the fire alarm.
Alrighty, so we pull the fire alarm and everyone starts evacuating. So first, everyone except for the officer, because he knows something's up. So all the employees, pretty much single file, begin to leave. And since this door, you close it on your way out, this person here isn't going to see you either. But the officer is kind of suspicious, so he's going to look.
Is SOC also going to leave?
Yes.
Also, just a general note about electronically locked doors. A lot of them are vulnerable to latch slipping. It's contractors who put them in a lot of the time only use the same kind of strike plate for all of them, so it's not properly sized, and you can just sort of pop them open.
Okay, and now that you pulled the fire alarm and you made your presence as a malicious actor known, the officer calls in other officers. And keep in mind, there are 3. So now everyone is pretty much now this at the sec. I'm going to spawn in the security guard, and even the one who's in charge of the nuclear reactor, since this is now seen as like an emergency, is in the building. And like they're pretty much one uses the mechanical, and actually both of them do, because there's now a line.
Yeah, you need one more officer.
Oh, I deleted one the ones I spawned in.
Why are they all downstairs though? How do they know we're downstairs?
Do they
That's a
know?
fair point, actually.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I think the main reason is they're going, the security guard that was in the man trap would say clear, and I'm guessing it's under the assumption that they already cleared the level 1. So going down to level 0 is the only place they could be if they're still on premises.
But it wouldn't happen instantaneously, right? Like the fire alarm just went off, everyone's still trying to evacuate, officers trying to fight with people in the man trap. So he's on his way down, they're standing outside, and they probably don't even hear the fire alarm going off yet.
Officer, in this case, the officer knows that people are going to be escaping through the man trap, so they are not going through the man trap. Both of them, one is going to check the upstairs, and there's another one going downstairs.
Also, side note too, fire code.
Also,
fail-
I think
Electronic locks fail open.
So that means right now, all the doors are technically unlocked. So
We can do something fun, we can get mechanical control breakers, so.
Well, right now, effectively, all the electronic locks are disabled because the fire alarm's been activated. It means everyone needs to be able to like get out, and rescue works need to be able to get in. So, yep.
All the doors are essentially failing over. We can leave out the conference room up to where the crowd of people is, even they go upstairs and kind of blend in and up with server.
Sounds good. Seems reasonable. Anyone else got, I guess, yeah, it's up.
You can follow the crowd with RFID schema and grab a bunch of keys or a key that has access and you can come back later.
That's also very possible. That's pretty reasonable. We know that we've been caught. We've gone from covert to overt. Like, we're causing a ruckus. We don't have to do this all at once. We can like literally wait till the dead of night and then sneak our way later. Do we want to keep pushing and try to like make we're in the server room on our way out, or do we want to skim a card and call that good and dip?
I mean, we can literally do something to the server and take a selfie and then like merge back to the line because we know the line's probably.
There you go. Like when in doubt, why not do both, right?
So let's do both.
Do both.
Alrighty, so the line is growing and by the time this time, like everyone is pretty much left and the officers are kind of looking in around. This one's now mechanical and you duck into the server room, letting into the crowd. You have no issue getting it since the door's open. And then you pretty much ride it out and no one finds out. So at this point, we can go back another day and we can simulate that right now. And your
Get our service over.
we got service on this.
Also,
So
am I
we are
running up on
able to
meeting time?
successfully leave our premise.
Oh, all right.
Alrighty, so I'm going to load in the parking lot, and since this is the dead of the night, everyone's wrong. Now, I wish there were a way to easily despawn all these ones, all these like NPCs.
Everyone goes, there's no night security.
There is night security.
So those 3 guards like working 24/7.
There's like one dude working night graveyard shift.
Yeah,
There's like one poor dude. Now's when you break out the chloroform.
There we go.
Burst through the door, rush him down, just shove it in his face.
Push him into the contaminated zone, leave him there, so we'll find him later.
Dude, it smell like chloroform.
okay, so now let's just say the time is like 3 a.m. in the morning. You have someone's ID you're able to clone, and you don't know this yet. Actually, I'm not gonna say how many officers are on duty. So,
We know there's one out front.
there is one out front.
We know there's one like over here or something.
Nope, they're off duty.
Off duty. Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m.
So when we were walking up, we didn't see him where we saw him earlier today.
Yeah, this is a completely new guy.
I would say probably.
Because like, of course, like, you can't have the same person working for like 20 hours straight.
I mean,
It's been like 17 hours.
I mean, technically, like we set off a nuclear reactor. We can really do whatever we want.
That's true.
if we're not getting tried for that, we can do whatever we want with impunity.
So if it's the night shift guy, we can assume that he probably hasn't seen the face of everyone who works there. So we have a card that probably gets us in. What if we say, hey, I left my phone and my desk, can I get in real fast?
I think a better story is, hey, when our server's down, can I get in?
Yeah.
The phone story is like, why are you here at 3 a.m. for your phone? Like,
Right, come back tomorrow. Yeah. But, if you are overnight IT staff and you're required for uptime, then it's your job to report, right?
A fire alarm went off earlier and it messed up something with the servers.
There you go.
I took a selfie in the server room and they all screwed up.
The radio waves from the phone.
Well, similar to the work that getting the server running. We got Log4j. We got a patch.
Okay, so we're gonna roll up. We're just gonna like start like dropping like cybersecurity mumbo jumbo and like hold it like he hasn't like been paying attention to the news or something. All right. Okay. Anyone else got recommendations?
There's a Russian cyber attack going on our servers right now.
It is also worth noting that the courtyard, the only thing separating it from like outside is literally just a brick wall. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Like a hit pipe strip wall, like a 10 foot.
It's
like 30
about
feet
six,
straight up.
it's 6 feet high.
6 feet high. Okay, cool. It's about this high. Yeah.
We could pull a reliable ladder, 5 minutes jacket, and a hard hat. Late night construction.
We're here to repair the fire earlier.
I was gonna propose a halo jump.
Yeah, and also I would propose, just in case like the security guards were told to look out for your likeness as like wanted and maybe even reported it to the local police, I would wear a disguise, so they can't recognize you.
I mean,
Wear a mask because you're afraid of COVID.
yeah, you can wear a mask because you have a good
I would
excuse.
wear a mask and maybe like some.
No, the wall into the courtyard is 6 feet tall. The building is much taller than 6 feet tall.
6 feet is like.
Oh, yeah.
That's as tall as most.
Yes, I am.
If the building maybe like 50 feet high. It's only it's a one-story building with basement because somehow we managed that.
To get over the wall.
There you go. Okay.
But the issue is that they do have no viable reason for the security guards to be in the building. If you go and they say, hey, like I'm here to do work, they know that you're in the building and they're okay with it. Just like top the fence and they see you, you're not there for anything.
Okay, that's completely legit. Maybe we combine the two of them. Let's like take this idea. What if you're the guy who's there to repair the broken fire alarm? And you do like emergency service all night long, you just like add different calls. Maybe while you were away, you made up some invoices, sign them off with people that you scoped out using some OSINT practices, and you're gonna show up in a high-vis jacket with a ladder and a tool bag, and you're gonna hand this guy a work order and say, hey, look, I need to be let in the gate, and I need to be let in the building. I've got work to do on, it looks like the basement for a fire alarm that got pulled. That seem reasonable?
Let's try it.
But then how do you explain it that doesn't have a fire alarm? Like if it's socket have a fire alarm, how do you explain why you're there?
Let's I don't know what fire room is, but let's assume every room has a fire alarm.
You said everyone in the server room did, so.
Yeah, and this server room also like, so just it's at the like for its fire prevention systems have to do like check out all the oxygen. Let's assume there's also a stop button for that.
So to explain realistically, the idea is that what you need to do is get past this part. You don't necessarily have to keep the same premise up all the way through. As long as you're out of sight from him, you can ditch all of your gear and then like don another disguise if you wanted to.
Unless they're on the walk.
That's true. Right, and
Can you bring a jammer?
That's like highly illegal.
incredibly legal.
You can bring whatever you want.
So they're not gonna notice.
I don't think.
All of a sudden, this random guy walks up with a tool bag and all your walkies stop working.
No one can hear you scream.
Don't.
You put the camera in there and turn it on, like, when you pull the fire alarm, then walk out.
Right.
The walk down all night.
So do we want to go in under the assumption that we are repairing the fire alarm, or do we want to go under the assumption that we are night IT and we're there to do a server inspection?
I would just hop over the fence into the court.
Okay, not saying
nothing. That's not.
So bypass the guard completely?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that. Sure.
All right,
Anyone else?
I also just do hands for like.
All right, cool. So let's see hands for hopping the fence. Just bypass the guard completely. Okay, good. And let's see, trying to fool the guards into thinking that we're there to do work. I would say we're gonna hop the fence.
All right, we're going to go around very carefully, not getting by the nuclear wall. We come out our fence, or our ladder over the fence, and we jump into the courtyard. Now we load floor 1, which give me a second to clear all these NPCs out. Because there is no one here because it is 3 a.m.
The only people here are the people surviving the medic bay from the radiation of the day before.
Surviving. I hope not.
1 second.
They just.
You see, you're waiting till you got exactly over.
Guard in the courtyard, instantly busted.
Just
I'm
bum
not
rush
gonna do
him.
that to you. They are here. So you jump the fence.
There are 2 guards.
There is the 1 guard outside and there's 1 inside. There's only 2 guards. So
We have a key card.
Yep.
From earlier, right? So we can
Just-
go downstairs.
Immediate man trap.
Just rust the man trap again.
okay, we go through the man trap and bear with me for a second because I have to clear everyone's move back.
Our employees love working. So much so they're doing it at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's an overtime spree.
It's Jim's birthday tonight. Like, I want to get ready for it.
Yeah, so this is a perfect, like,
That's a good question.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is not as manned, but there is one guy just there.
Jim.
Celebrating
It's his birthday. He's celebrating in the sock.
alone.
This is the life of the sock though, the dark room.
Sadly plays happy birthday over the speakers.
When people actually get contracted to like break in and things like this, is it typically like a one very thought out planned like maneuver, or is it like they exhaust all their resources? Like one person goes in, gets caught, then they send another one, and another one. Like,
It depends on how well it goes.
So I can't speak from my own personal experience, but I can speak from like a bunch of research and things from Darknet Diaries. Like lots and lots and lots of these kinds of like scenarios are talked about in that podcast. Really awesome. If you really want to learn more, dig into that. You definitely should. But sometimes it goes, everything is according to plan. Sometimes like one thing is just incredibly well thought out, and every single checkpoint like goes exactly how it's supposed to. I'll say that's incredibly rare, but it can happen. Usually you have a loose idea of what it is that you're going to do. You have an idea of like what all is going on, and then you just kind of like con your way through. You get caught, and then you try to find a way to like not get completely caught. In some cases that works out really well. In some cases it doesn't. For this situation, I would say that like we're probably hitting about that level, but
Yeah, let's just say we're extremely lucky for demonstrations.
sure. I do know that there was one instance where an individual was breaking into a bank, and the bar was set them to so their success condition was they had to steal a gold bar from the vault, right? And to get into the vault, it was like you had to pass through multiple layers of security. It was supposed to be completely like undoable. The dude actually showed up after night and was like trying to scope out the location, and two people were standing behind him and just asked him like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna break into this place." And they turned out to be cops. And this was in England, by the way, right? So they're just standing behind him, and he just like admitted to essentially. But now, luckily, this is the kind of situation that you can get yourself out of pretty easily, because you've been hired to do this thing. You have a get out of jail free card. You have your proof of work, right? So all he did was like turn around and explain the situation that he'd been contracted to do it, showed them proof of work. They're not going to go report him. They're just like, "Oh, all right, fine, whatever," and they went off. And then he came back the next day and literally walked into a back door after someone had walked out for a cigarette break, and went down the stairs. The vault was open, walked into the vault, grabbed a bar of gold, took a selfie, stood around for a while. I was like, "Is it really this easy?" And then put it in his backpack and walked out the same way that he came in. Stood out in front of the bank and called up the bank manager to come down so that he could show proof that he had a gold bar. Robbed them blind.
I have a friend, or family friend, who did a physical pen test for UNF a while ago. He managed to break into the head of security's office.
Nice.
And sent him a selfie of him with his legs kicked up on the.
Now, there are, of course, like cases where stuff like this really goes wrong, right? There's that case of the two pen testers in Iowa that were like very, very professional. I've done this for years, had everything like lined out the way that they were supposed to. They showed up, they were supposed to break into courthouses, right? They had successfully done 2 penetration tests on 2 different courthouses. They showed up to the third, and while they were in there, they accidentally tripped an alarm in a way that it shouldn't have tripped. They'd actually been in, completed the pen test, they were wrapping up, and they were on their way out when sheriff showed up on scene. And sheriff had not been included in because the state of Iowa had contracted this and not let any of the officers know what was going to happen. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care if you've got a proof of work signed by like anyone, my boss directly. I've called him up and I've talked to him. He said that this is legit. You're going to jail." And they literally went to jail. They were held up in lockup for months. They actually went to trial and had to fight the entire way through. And all the while, the state government of Iowa said, no, we did pay for this. This is real. And the county said, "You didn't clear this through us. We have jurisdiction here. They're going to jail. They're going to prison." And that was like a 3-year battle. And I think they're still dealing with all the fallout from that. So while definitely like only do things that you have permission to do, also recognize that there's inherent risk in everything, and make sure that you get a lawyer that is very familiar with this kind of law to walk through every step of the way. That way, you know that you're protected.
One of the stories on the government workers,
So yes, I agree, but, all right, so we are getting back to this, otherwise I can talk all night. We're in the ground floor, we got one person that we suspect is in the SOC, and, we bypassed 2 security guards. What do we do now?
I'd say wait, well, what time do we have to at?
3
a.m.
It's about maybe 3:15 right now.
Do we know when the night shift started?
Okay, so I have a new interesting idea. So the order of work, whatever, so we could check any computer system except those for access. Could we walk into the server room, figure out whatever server is done with access control, like unplug network cable or something, and hope that it would trigger the SOC guy to leave the SOC?
That's possible.
That's valid.
Now, here's the thing. None of the computers in the server room are really labeled well. They have like maybe like code names on them, but like your OSINT didn't cover that. So what do you do in that situation?
So, you go to the server room and you're sitting there and you got a lot of blinking lights. And a lot of cables, they're not organized well, it's a rat's nest.
The data works that we couldn't tamper with computer systems that were with access control. I'd say if they're not labeled well enough, we can't risk doing something outside of our.
I mean, granted, access control systems are pretty noticeable compared to like server racks, relatively speaking, at least.
Yeah.
They look like fire alarms if you've ever like fire systems if you've been in the back of a retail store.
Just call it that.
That's fair.
Servers are.
Right.
And like.
You can look at the cables and see if they are.
5 minutes to see if the guy walks out and then he doesn't talk about it. Industry level of enterprise. Yes. The last like.
Flip the breaker.
That's
I really just put up the breaker.
that's also viable. We do have that key card, and we know that with that key card, it lets us into the server room. What's the chance that it also lets us into the mechanical? Okay, so do we want to unplug UPS? Do we want to do some cables and like turn stuff off, or do we want to check out the mechanical room? Let's vote for mechanical room. By show of hands. That's pretty popular one. All right, Jimmy cables. Nope. Okay, and pulled UPS. All right, we're going to the mechanical room.
I like your idea, Ryan. It was good.
Alrighty, so because your ID is badged to get you in and out of the secure room, and technically the mechanical is considered like outside of the secure zone, you can actually just like use your key to get in mechanical. Now what?
Good, we're in mechanical. We're gonna flip the breaker.
Yeah.
Which one?
All of them.
Pick the one for the server rooms, the security operations guy goes to look at the server.
Okay.
And they're on UPS and stuff,
Yes.
fine.
My magical.
Yeah, everything in the server room was on UPS. We guaranteed it was working.
Okay. It's not our data, right? I mean, actually it is. All right, anyone else have an idea for us to take care of that?
Kill the lights. Splinter cell.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So like
What
red.
When you die,
Now you just
did we touch like the live 120 volt wiring?
now you just got a little shock.
All right, so
A little crispy.
we're gonna kill the lights, flip the breaker, and kill power to the server room. All right,
Okay,
kill the server room.
The breakers are all well labeled in like the server room.
they are labeled.
Yes.
So you click the one for the
Actually,
server
electric
room,
code.
and
My
you don't exactly see anything that happened. But you do know, like kind of like peeking through the window of the door that the SOC guy was immediately alarmed and is like right now sprinting to check on it.
You hear a stream of profanity from behind the door.
You actually hear a few F-bombs.
Someone's gonna kill me. Oh no.
All right, so the stock is no longer manned. What do you want to do?
We hop into the
Go.
shop, take a quick selfie, and then run back to the mechanical.
Okay, anyone else got any ideas we do while we're there? Yes,
Yeah, we take a little while because I think people in mechanical, he's gonna realize.
We're in mechanical.
He's saying we shouldn't go back.
Once you get out of stock, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Because he's gonna realize that the power is out, he's gonna go to mechanical next.
Oh, that's a good thought, yeah. That's
Go
really
to the conference room.
the conference room.
Hypothetically too, odds are they haven't relocked the conference room since the afternoon. Like if you picked it once, they have no real reason to lock it again.
Right. I mean, there's also the bathrooms. Yeah. Right. All right, that was successful once. All right, so we're going to the sock, we're gonna take a selfie, you know we're gonna do that. Where are we going next? Are we going to conference room?
Can we leave?
We could.
Dead sprint.
We did see a guard like in the lobby area on the first floor, which you'd probably see us walking up to the janitor area.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. We know that there's a guard up there, but if you remember, there's a couple of different walls that like prevent you from like getting directly into the janitor's area. So it's reasonable that like we could get into the janitor's room without being caught.
Getting out.
So, okay, so conference room. Okay, got a couple. All right, bathroom. All right, got a couple more. All right, mechanical room, and then we're gonna go upstairs. Oh, okay, looks like we're going to bathroom. All right, so we
Like, as the door is slowly closing, we quickly still sneak into the sock, because our key wouldn't have worked. We take our selfie and then we head to the left, or the bathroom. So you're now in the bathroom. This guy is kind of like running around, trying to see what's going on. And in fact, he is still running around in there. What's the move now? You might lose at any moment. You don't know.
Right, report that the bad sock analyst can turn a power outage.
Call his boss.
You will be required to report that.
So you're probably going to be in the server room for like 5 minutes, but you don't know.
Dead sprint. Just
are we on Reddit checking our phone while we're feet up on the bowl, just hanging out? Or we just wait.
We have to go back across the hall.
Okay.
Alrighty, so he will eventually leave the server room. We'll actually run by the lounge, get a drink, and then resumes to be back in the sock.
That's nice that you go to the bathroom.
Wait, didn't you get the power back on?
Yeah, you turn the power back on. He got a drink, gave up, and sat in the power room. Was like, we don't need our data.
How do you get a drink without the
we
power?
saw him. We hit in the women's
No,
restroom specifically because we saw him.
Yeah, that is a fair point. He doesn't. He just goes mechanical, quickly flips it, and then goes in the sock. But he made sure to get a drink first.
You just leave it.
All right, so
Oh shit, this was a really bad day.
we hear someone stomp past, they're having a really, really bad day. Then they say, oh, I got it, really, really loud. They flip the switch, you presume the power's back on the server room. They breathe a sigh of relief and they walk back in the sock to write a report. What's up?
Just a question, if they flip the breaker when nobody was there, would they report that for security?
That's a good question. They don't necessarily know that someone flipped the breaker, they just know that a breaker
It could have
tripped.
been, yeah, it could have been like a surge might have flipped the breaker.
Most of the breaker will have a different spot where it rests when it was tripped versus when it was flipped off.
A lot of
So
them
it
also
should
have
be
a test
obvious.
button, and the test button puts it in the trip position, not the off position.
We'll make the assumption that we like are familiar with this and we put it back into the reset position, like waiting for someone to assume that it just tripped on its own, so they wouldn't discover us.
Did we take a selfie in the conference room? We really should do that.
We probably did when we were in there before.
Yeah, I was.
And mechanical room, we took a selfie in there too.
Yeah.
We took it with the breaker open.
What, like while holding the breaker?
Like finger on the button.
Interesting lounge.
I don't think the employee lounge is necessary.
Yeah,
to
I
get-
think that would encourage you to get past the next, that's it.
I think we're headed back upstairs.
I think it's time to
There's a
bail.
ladder on the side of the building and we discovered if we don't clean it up.
Yeah, we've only got another like hour and a half until sun, like, dawn, so we should probably get through it. All right, cool. So we're gonna go upstairs. Which stairs are we going up? Mechanic room, we're going upstairs in the man trap.
Man trap.
Man trap, all right, do it.
Ready? So we're gonna go up to the man trap, and then I'm going to.
Also, his name is Hacky Safe General Body, so this is all of us collectively running through this building.
Everyone here is in that stairwell running fast.
Okay, so then we push out, and we are now in the courtyard. So what's the move now?
There's a ladder on the other side.
There's so plenty of places we have to go to, but you can hop outside and greet the guard in the parking lot again and be like, hey, the servers shut off. I need to go do maintenance on the servers because they shut off.
All right, do we want to do that?
I think that's a good.
Go still the ladder.
We're gonna jump the wall from the inside back out.
Bring our ladder back in whatever van we throw in here with.
Show up in your Verizon Polo.
All right, let's go do that.
So we are, this security guard is still outside because he is just tired. We are going to drop General Body in, and we're on the other side. And now we clean up the ladder, and we're about ready to go. So what's the play here?
The other way.
You don't go to the parking lot, the guard will see us carrying the ladder.
Okay, so we got rid of the ladder.
It's like, hey, we're here dealing with the server outage earlier.
Hey, you got a call, server went down.
Yeah, if you flip the breakers, the shot guy could agree with us.
The guard can verify that with the sock guy.
Okay, so he buys your story, and we click the load map button again, and we're back on course.
I'm building for a third time now.
Alrighty, so ignore teleporting. Okay, we are now in the lobby. He is currently in the closet, yeah, he's going downstairs.
Okay, we go take selfies in the office.
And the medic bay.
And the medic
Office medic bay upstairs.
bay. We zoom.
Yes.
So, what first?
Medic bay, right there.
Alrighty, key to support.
We cloned all the keys.
We only cloned one.
Downstairs.
We cloned it on some random person that was
We
running
have the
upstairs. We don't know what he's
downstairs,
scared.
not
You just
necessarily
hope it was
upstairs
right.
workers.
And the sock.
Also in the sock wouldn't have
The
worked.
sock also had it.
We can go check the office.
That's a good idea.
Alrighty, offices, you do not have access.
We're at the conference.
The conference was key anyway, so we can say get a good access.
Okay, we pick key. We take our selfie.
Is there anything in the conference?
Um, So,
Did Jim, the medic, head medic, leave his ID on the conference table?
That would be sweet.
someone just left their wallet, but it didn't have their ID.
$20.
Just 20 bucks.
It had their state issued ID, but not the back.
Okay, so what kind of like doors we have? Crash bar doors?
These are like just standard like doors like that.
Can we slide our credit card to the side?
Gonna slip the latch.
Try that.
Yeah, we got tools.
Yeah.
We have a wallet.
Yeah, you-
Just go turn it into it.
Using the card to shim the office, and that actually managed to work.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes. Oops.
Ooh,
With Terrence.
It was Terrence.
Disregard.
Apparently it's Terrence's wallet.
Okay. So you are able to get into both of these offices using that method.
what about the medic bay?
Medic bay is Terra double doors.
Double doors.
Double doors.
But they have a crash bar.
They do have a crash bar.
Okay, so we're the crash bar.
We're coat hangering the crash bar.
We coat hanger the crash bar. We get on the medic bay.
Selfie time.
Selfie time.
Hook yourself up to the medical equipment. Go for
So
someone's dying
now we are
grandpa.
able to access every single secure area in the building. So now how do we leave? Do you just want to walk out the lobby?
Walk the
Yeah,
front
I'll
door.
open the guard door and then-
Yeah, the guard knows someone's
around
in there.
picking locks and shipping things is probably like 20 minutes. Reasonable time to confirm the servers are working.
Okay. You leave and roll credits.
Yeah.
Good job, everybody. Good job. Wait.
All right, so that's it for our content tonight. Thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate you, but I'm going to run through the last little bit real quick. So if you're not already an ops member and you want to be, come check out our meetings on Tuesdays at 8. We'd love to have you if you know something and you want to teach it, or you really want to learn something, you want to group together and help someone out with their project. That's what we do. You should definitely check it out. I don't have anything to show, or I don't have anything to talk about on projects. Stay informed. So if you're not on the mailing list, you can join the mailing list on the link below. If you haven't checked out our shop, why not? Buy something. If you're not on Discord, join our Discord. And if you do the Twitter thing, so do we. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate you. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow, Saturday, for NCAE.
Only 40